Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Today's video is regarding the text messages and some random video, etc. that was taking place between pass number 3 and the time that Kohberger is driving south on Highway 95. And there's a bunch of text messages between Bethany Funk and Dylan Mortensen. Now there's some video that was taken on behind 500 Queen Road at right now at 3:50 and 39 seconds, but you could see that there's an individual walking in the background there, and people say, "See, look, that person right there is who just called Dylan, and that's why she put it into her phone." I mean, isn't that absurd? The Elantra, by the way, was driving on Walenta Drive just prior to that. So that can't be the same person that's in the white Elantra. So right here at 3:51, Dylan creates a new contact in her phone. And people are saying that person walking has created that contact. They think that she's actually created a contact by that person walking, which is just, it's absurd. What indication do you have other than the fact that there's another human being walking in an apartment complex near the residence that has lots of people living there? Okay, so shortly here I speed up the video so that it's back to 400%, which is right now it's moving a lot quicker, and then we get to normal speed again when the killer, Brian Kohberger, goes inside the house, and you get to watch the same animation as he did yesterday. It's 7 minutes long. So it's pass number 3. Each time it goes around, it appears to stop somewhere on Taylor Avenue. However, just checking again, the surveillance footage that's online, that's 5 hours long, has the 1320 Linda Lane footage on it. It's missing 3:30 till 4:05, which is exactly the time frame that you would need to see if the vehicle passed at any other time. So unfortunately, that's missing. Now, why is it missing? I don't know. It's pretty interesting. So the vehicle comes back around, and then it's going to finish pass number 3. And as you remember, it's at the end of this pass where the DoorDash driver could be in the area. I think there's definitely a visual contact of some sort with the DoorDash delivery. It's listed at 3:59. It could be 3:59 and 47 seconds, and maybe they just wipe off the seconds at the end. And the vehicle takes off, and then I have it passing the DoorDash if the delivery was at 3:59, because you have to stop, park the car, get out, walk to the door, take the photograph, which would be about right now. And that's exactly when the Elantra is filmed on Walenta Drive as it is heading back behind again. And I think it does a quick U-turn because it comes right back. And I think he spotted that DoorDash driver, didn't know who it was, obviously. He doesn't know it's a DoorDash driver, but sees a vehicle go to the house, so he's going back to check on it. Now, if he got there a little bit later, likely at this point he's driving by because he could see that the car was still there and didn't want to be spotted. And the fact that it's on the road right here, we don't know what time the DoorDash driver left. It's obviously going to be on the 1112 King Road camera. Now, right there, that Ridge Road camera took that photograph around 4:01 and some odd seconds, and that was the photograph that filmed Kohberger's vehicle missing its front license plate. Even Ann Taylor agreed that that was his vehicle. And here goes the vehicle north. And then in a moment, it will start its final pass number 4, which is, there's like pass 4A and 4B. And it'll be driving behind here, behind 1119 King Road, and the 1112 King Road camera picks the lights of the vehicle up in the background. They know that's the same vehicle because of the timing, and right there it comes back in, and that is suspect vehicle number 1. So there comes the vehicle behind there. It does its 3-point turn, backs up, and goes over to the intersection of Queen and King and does a U-turn. Originally in the documents it said it did a 3-point turn there, but that was probably just miscommunication, because we can actually see that it does the 3-point turn behind 500 King Road or Queen Road, and then they know it did a U-turn at Queen and King because that would be filmed on the 1112 King Road camera. Now the vehicle parks, and I think at around 4:08, Koberger gets out of his vehicle and is preparing for when he might return, perhaps laying down some plastic bags, some items to put his bloody clothing in. Now there's some interesting comments underneath my last video. One of them is even, I think it was a nurse, who said that they're absolutely trained in putting on PPE to be able to take it off without contaminating yourself with what would be on the outside of the PPE that you're taking off. So let's say there's blood on it. They're trained on how to take it off. So I'm sure online you could read about it, especially somebody who is in the criminology education system. I mean, he's in the doctoral student program in criminology, and he even wrote on how to not contaminate a crime scene. So he's very knowledgeable about how not to have blood spatter in his vehicle or any droplets. And then even though he used those mitigation techniques, he then spent the next month or so cleaning his vehicle. I mean, I guess he just went to the washed it all the time after that. So right now he's still laying that down, and in just a moment here he's going to go down, likely heading down around the building currently. And then in a moment we'll see the vehicle inside of 1122 King Road, the residence where Ethan Chapin, Xander Kernodle, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez were all killed between the hour like 4:08 and 4:20 and 47 seconds. I actually think it's between 4:10 and 4:17. All right, so here he is going through the sliding glass door in the kitchen, takes a right, and goes upstairs. Now, people have said that perhaps he was online looking at the real estate website that actually has the layout and images of the inside of the house, so he would know how to get around. Plus, just sitting out back and stalking the residence, you could tell that there were stairs that went up. You could see where the kitchen was. You could see where Madison Mogan's room is. You could see where Kaylee's room is. And it's pretty obvious that you're not going to go to a different section of the house. Now, right now, the killer is in Madison Mogan's bedroom. And you can just use your imagination. This is going to just play at real time, just like the previous video did, because I think it's important for any stragglers in watching this video. It's important for them to see that absolutely there is way more than enough time for a dedicated killer that is prepared, has his adrenaline pumping, has a vicious knife, like a K-bar knife that it's sharpened, and he's going to be attacking students that were out drinking and had quite a bit of alcohol and are very sleepy. And so I think he easily was able to kill them. Even if they had fought back, it wasn't difficult for him to inflict fatal blows. So we're just watching this time. You can see right now, I mean, look how long he's already been in Madison's room. Doesn't it feel like he would have already been able to kill them at this point? But instead, we have to sit here and just keep waiting for the time to tick by. And it seems like he would have already killed both of them. You know, he's an absolute monster. And remember, during this attack, he either left intentionally as a calling card the K-bar knife sheath. I think he was going to be known as the K-bar killer, And then eventually when he'd be caught, they'd call him Koberger the K-Bar Killer, he thought. But it's possible that he left the knife sheath as a calling card, and he was going to continue to kill, leaving either a knife sheath or some other item related to the next weapon at the next crime scene. And I say that because they found one source of DNA. Now, I know that Kaylee Gonzalez was sitting up in the corner there, and this animation was created before I've updated the interior of the house. I have Ethan Chapin on the bed in Xana's room in the more recent models. And I have Xana Kernodle on the floor, and that's why she was visible from the hallway. Of course, I don't know exactly where the bed was in Xana's room, but I think it was against the southern wall, and I think Ethan Chapin was on that bed, and that's why there is blood, perhaps that's his blood, that you can see outside of the house on that southern wall just around the corner from the kitchen. So again, we're just allocating a lot of time here just for Ethan Chapin. All right, and that's just a look outside at this point, just to change up the scenery. That's what it would look like where his vehicle would be parked, likely a little bit farther down near that other vehicle. He could be back here too. I always had thought he was back here, but some people made some good arguments that he perhaps parked down there. And I guess if the rumor is true, what Dylan Mortensen said, she saw somebody getting dressed, some nude person getting dressed or something like that. Absolutely no indication that that's a true statement of any kind. But in that location, she could see that person from her room. There was also no mention of that in the text messages or anything like that. So I'm not really confident that that rumor is true, because you would know for certain in those text messages she would have said, "Oh my God, I saw this nude guy getting undressed outside right around, right at that time when they're frantically communicating." They wouldn't just be talking about the guy inside the house wearing all black. They would have talked about how there was some guy outside undressing. And maybe that's the blood spatter mitigation. So right now he goes in the room, and then there's Anna in the room. Now, I don't have this order, but I'm just sort of showing you how much time it would take. I don't have Dylan on the bed anymore in the theory. She's in the middle of the room, and we have Ethan Chapin on the bed. So right now it's 4:15, 24 seconds. Just, Xana is being attacked at this point. A theory that I've had recently was that Xana and Ethan were attacked first, and then he goes upstairs and attacks Kaylee and Madison. And then when he goes back downstairs, he hears Xana still making sounds, and says, finds her and says, "Hey, it's okay, I'm here to help you." And that's why he attacked her again. He was trying to calm her down, then attacked her again so she wouldn't be a witness. And then there's a loud thud, and then he exits. And it could be that he went upstairs first, and then while he was up there, he heard somebody downstairs saying, "Hey, there's somebody here." And then he tracked that person down, who he thought maybe he attacked Ethan first as he came down the stairs. And then as Xana was approaching the room, he said, "Hey, it's okay, I'm here to help," because she could see that there was blood or something like that. It's hard to say. I think law enforcement will know the order of the killings based on whose blood is in what room, because obviously there'd be droplets of blood from different victims in different rooms. All right, so this is 4:16 and 50 seconds, and then right now he's going to pass Dylan. You can see Dylan. You should have been able to see Dylan looking through the door there. And then the killer walks out. It's like 4:17 and 7 seconds. Yeah, and right now he's just doing blood spatter mitigation near his vehicle, taking off his clothes, probably like the PPE removal, making sure that there's none there. When I say making sure there's none there, I mean there's no blood on him that's going to make its way into the vehicle. And the way it was explained was that you take off all of your outer clothing sort of from the inside out, and then it all rolls up in a ball at the end, and you have nothing on yourself that was on the outside of the PPE that you were wearing. So right now he's been out of the house for about a minute, and I think Dylan and Bethany were probably listening to things, and they're still just nervous to even make any noise at all. And after it wasn't noisy for a while, maybe that's when they realized, oh, he's left, because it looked to her, to Dylan, like he was leaving out the back slider. So she probably waited a little bit of time. So pretty soon we're going to see the first text message come in. And we're going to go back to a still frame of outside on that side street right next to the residence. The residence is on the left. 500 Queen Road is on the right. So again, he's taking his time out here. And it was a good point that somebody made. I think I mentioned it in the video or live stream, that if Dylan Mortensen, if Kohberger had seen Dylan Mortensen, he wouldn't have spent so much time at his car doing blood spatter mitigation. And so that's evidence that he didn't see Dylan Mortensen. She may have seen him, obviously, but she only thought he saw her because she saw the bushy eyebrow. And that was singular. That's exactly how she worded it. All right. So really soon here he's going to get into his vehicle. About probably another 45 seconds, actually. That's one thing we didn't ask, is how long does it take to take the PPE off? So if you're out there listening, can you put that in the comments? How long does it take for you generally to take off all of your PPE in a careful way to not expose your physical body to anything that was on the outside of the gloves or the, all the PPE that you were wearing? So Dylan calls Kaylee. And then, now, phone calls are being made, but he hasn't even left yet. I mean, isn't that amazing? And here comes the vehicle leaving. Now this is sped up too, but not dramatically. Bethany calls Anna. 421. Kohberger's driving away. They seem to know by listening to the vehicle sound that now they can sort of pick up the pace in communication. Yeah, this is all real-time speed, actually. I just thought it was important to have it at regular speed just so we can have a feel or a sense of how frantically they were texting or calling each other. Alright, so real soon here, Bethany Funk is going to end up calling, I think it's right here, calls Ethan, trying to check on him. Then Dylan sends a text message to Bethany. Then Dylan to Bethany again. And then we have another one coming up here in just a moment. At 4:22:42, Dylan Mortensen to Kaylee. A text message just saying, Kaylee. And then another one, Dylan to Kaylee, what's going on? And then a few seconds later, Bethany Funk sends an outgoing message to Snapchat, probably trying to communicate with the same friends, talking about, trying to get a hold of Madison, Ethan, Xana, or Kaylee on Snapchat. And then right now, we're going to have Bethany Funk to Dylan says, yeah, dude, what the F? And then 15 seconds later, Bethany Funk to Dylan. Then Bethany to Dylan said, Xana was wearing all black. And that might have just been a response because Xana was wearing black, and maybe Dylan had said that she'd seen somebody in all black in another conversation that we're not seeing here. And then she said, no, it's like a ski mask. Bethany to Dylan, shut the F up. Actually, and then Dylan says, like, he had something over his head. If you need more time to read those, you can just pause the video. Bethany, I'm not kidding. I'm so freaked out. Bethany to Dylan, so am I. Bun is going to die, F. And you can tell they sort of feel comfortable that the person's gone now. And you can hear the cars driving around really easily out there. Bethany says, run. And then there was a follow-up that said down here. I'm not sure if I put that in here. Like, run down here. And then 4:24:39, we just saw Bill Mortensen calls Ethan Chapin. And then right here, Dylan to Bethany, a text message. We don't see what was said on it. And Bethany Funk to Dylan Mortensen coming up here. And then about 2 minutes after this, Dylan Mortensen makes an outgoing call, but we don't know to who. It doesn't say, maybe it's another friend. I mean, it doesn't have a name on here. I don't know if they're trying to, maybe they're trying to protect the names of other people that they're trying to call. And they're only using the initials of the people that live inside the residence. So this is 4:25, 58, 59, 4:26. And it's 4:27:11 when Dylan makes an outgoing call. So we got another minute here. This is just real time. So you can sort of get a feel of how things were going, how quickly people were texting each other, etc. So it's coming up here. Yeah, so keep in mind, if you watch some of my more recent videos of inside of the house, I have Ethan Chapin is on the bed in the far left corner of the bedroom of Xana, and Xana's on the floor. And then up in Madison's room, Madison, I have her lying on her stomach. And then in the corner of the bed, I have Kaylee sitting up, sort of slouched over. And I think that's what Kaylee's mother described recently. So here we go. Dylan makes an outgoing call. And then she sends a message to Snapchat, and we don't know ourselves what that says and who it was to. It could have been to any of the victims, just trying to find them without going to their room. She didn't want to verify the fears that she had. And then Dylan calls Kaylee. See, she's trying to get a hold of them. And then it isn't until 4:27:44 where Dylan calls Xana. So she's calling everybody, letting it ring and trying to get a hold of the people that are in the house. She just doesn't want to leave her room to go out and verify the fear, because once you see it, it's real. So at this point, she's just trying to sort of convince herself that the sounds that she heard weren't anything as bad, but she's probably getting more and more scared as nobody is answering. So this is 4:28:28. And then just at 4:28:44, Dylan Mortensen calls Xana Kernodle. So it's coming up here. Sorry for the vehicle sound outside. Dylan calls Xana. And then we've got 4:29 coming up. Bethany calls Madison Mogan again. So she's frantically trying to wake up or get a hold of one of the roommates that have been killed. Okay, then at 4:30, Bethany Funk calls Madison Mogan. So that one at 4:29 was Bethany Funk calls Madison Mogan. And then at 4:30, Bethany Funk calls Madison Mogan again. So here in about 30 more seconds, she calls Madison Mogan a second time. And then at the same time, same minute, she called Kaylee Gonzalez again. So you'll see both those on the screen at the same time. And I have this picture up on the screen right now because inside that house on the left is where all of these communications are being originated from. So here it is. Bethany calls Madison and Bethany calls Kaylee, all in the 4:30 a.m. time frame. And then coming up at 4:31, Bethany Funk calls Kaylee again. So she tried calling Madison twice, and then in a row, and then tried calling Kaylee Gonzalez twice in a row. Yeah, one of the things that's a little bit of a mystery here is why there's so many of these people out there, we call them pro-burgers, that for some reason, without any information saying the otherwise, they believe Kohberger didn't commit these crimes, and they try to tie together all of these random images or videos of people walking around. I mean, it's absolutely incredible, really. There's video of a guy that's walking by a dumpster, for example, and he sort of reaches in the dumpster, and then he walks towards like 1330 Linda Lane. You know, it's the 1320 Linda Lane camera, and he walks that direction. And it's, you know, way earlier in the evening. But apparently he is there to retrieve a knife to use in the killings, right? And then way later, like way after the murders, we're talking, I mean, you know, 30 minutes or longer, I can't remember the exact time frame, there's another person walking by the dumpster wearing different clothing, but they said obviously that's the same person wearing different clothing, and then he's being picked up by somebody. But wouldn't it make more sense that that's just somebody that has an early shift somewhere? Because they were being picked up right around 5 a.m. But instead they pretend that that person is a suspect. Look at that person. Ooh, they're part of it's all a organized hit and they're all in on it. But they never mention the white Elantra being part of it, when that's sort of the key element. The white Elantra, how it parks outside the house for the 12 minutes that all of the victims were killed in. All right, coming up here at 4:32:57 is a Dylan Mortensen texts Kaylee Gonzalez. Now trying to get a hold of him again. I think what it is, it's like a competition of these people to come up with the most absurd correlation of events. You know, for example, earlier when I said that there was a guy walking at 351, it's a huge apartment building with many people living there. So, of course, there could be somebody else walking around. There are people driving vehicles and walking around. There's even somebody at like 424 who gets in a vehicle in that back parking lot and drives away. You know, goes off to perhaps go to work. And then but they always claim, oh, look, the car came back at this time and this time. And they have no idea if that's the same vehicle or anything. They just claim things to create a story. All right, and then at 4:34, Bethany Funk is going to access Snapchat. It's 4:34 a.m. It's coming up here. So this is just the real time. You know, you can speed up the video if you want to watch it. But Bethany Funk access Snapchat, and then the last one that I'm going to be using is the one at 4:37 a.m. Bethany Funk access Instagram. So she's probably out there looking to see if her friends, who probably use those apps all the time, were on there. Okay, and then the next one is at 10:23. Dylan Mortensen sends a message to Madison Mogan and says, "Are you up?" So what that indicates is, you know, they didn't ever go upstairs and check. They just hunkered down in their rooms. And then 11:29:27 a.m. Dylan Mortensen to Kaylee said, "Are you up?" Then 11:49, Bethany Funk phone call to JM, and then 11:56, Bethany Funk calls 911. So I remember how people said it. Neither of the roommates called 911. Well, that was bogus. Okay, they actually did call 911. So we're just waiting to get to the 4:37 time frame, and then that will be it for this video. And I hope it was interesting. I think you can kind of just see how frantic they were trying to call and see if anybody was okay, but they just... Can you imagine how absolutely freaked out you would be to go to those other rooms, but maybe the stuff that you saw and heard didn't rise to the level of calling 911 or anything like that, but you thought, man, something weird's going on, but you are too scared to get up and look. So perhaps you waited in the morning until some of your friends were awake and you got a hold of them to come over and check. And we don't know what the visibility was of Xana. It seems like they could tell that she wasn't responding, and she wasn't responding to her name being called. So for them, maybe it looked like she was passed out, and they were just looking at her from a distance. And it wasn't until the 911 call, when they were sort of asked to go into the room and look, I don't think it wasn't until then that they actually realized the absolute horror and level of ferocity of the killing that took place. I don't even think what they knew at that point. They might have thought she had just passed out. And people say, "Whoa, what about the blood? What about the blood?" Who knows? We don't know, man. We don't know what they were able to see or how they were able to see at all. And maybe they did see blood, they just didn't say it. None of the first responders mentioned that either. All right, so right now, Bethany accessed Instagram. Okay, and then I think after this, they perhaps went to sleep. Okay, so leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think when you have all this extra information in there in terms of the text messages, the phone calls, the video of a person walking. I think it's absolutely unrelated at all, because the Elantra was on Walenta Drive as that person was just walking back to their room. It's just absolutely unrelated. There's nothing other than they happen to be walking around during the time prior to the crimes. There's nothing to indicate that they had anything to do with anything. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, hit the like button and share it, and I would really appreciate that. So thank you again for watching, and as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.